In this 3 series of the Crit House, we usually ask photographers to share 3 images from their archive. But Neal Rantoul does not think in single images. He works in projects, and the idea of isolating one photograph runs counter to his practice. But today, Neal, photographer, educator, and author, has chosen 3 images that stand in for an entire project, offering a glimpse into his long and distinguished career. And if you visit his website, nealrantoul.com, you'll see that unlike most photographers, he shows everything, the full scope of his work. On today's episode of the Crit House, we explore the dreamlike quiet of a Washington state cemetery, the meditative flow of a spring stream on Martha's Vineyard, and the enduring legacy of a family home in rural America.
One of the continuing themes throughout all these years has been series work in a narrative form. And so those 3 pictures embody that idea, that way of working, and each single one that we've chosen is indicative of the full series. So in Oakdale, I think there are 16 in the images, and they're sequential, and it's important that you look at them in that way as opposed to just as single pictures. And the same with the stream, and the same with the Shirley, which is much more contemporary. The Oakdale pictures were a long time ago in 1996 or 7, but Shirley, that we'll get to in the end, is 2023. So it's a way of working that I've been doing for a long time, and I'm not only loyal to, but I'm interested in people seeing that more, because some of them are kind of hidden away in the past.
Well, let's look at the images specifically, so you could talk in more detail about that. So we start off with the Oakdale image in Washington from the late '90s. This is a simple image, but tell me, like, what is it about the process that is you came to this place to shoot on the Palouse, and you found this place, and it intrigued you, and you came to it. Tell us
So
about this.
there's usually some elaborate backstory, and I don't need to belabor you with that, because I was taking a nap in the cemetery and woke up and found myself in some sort of a paradise. So I'm surrounded by wheat fields. It's July. I've been photographing an 8x10, black and white 8x10. I'm exhausted. I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I pull into this little town cemetery on the hill to take a nap. And I wake up, and a lot of my series are kind of walk-arounds. They're discover a place or think there's some potential in a place, make a few pictures. In this case, I'm working with a handheld camera, and so I'm reacting to where I am and the ambient light and temperature and breeze blowing through this small cemetery. It's too good to believe. And so I pull together a series. I'm experienced at this time by this time in making series. I've been doing it for 10 or 15 years, but this is a very rural location. That's fairly unusual for me. I was more involved in housing and man-made stuff. So to be in a cemetery, kind of a cliche thing to be doing, for like sunsets and baby pictures in cemeteries. But I accepted the challenge inherent in that. And there's a internal structure to the pictures. There's 16 of them. The one that we've chosen is the first one. So I'm in a process of discovering. So after that picture, I walk in closer. I've got a fixed lens camera. It's not a zoom. So in order to get something larger, I need to move up closer to it. So the second one does just that and isolates that truck kind of sitting there. Mark Feeney in the Boston Globe referenced that picture in kind of a nice way, where he said the kind of magic of that is that somebody put that truck there, and then in the future, somebody's going to take that truck away, and it's going to change this picture. So nothing's in stone, like that. So as the series continues, it goes through all kinds of permutations, but one of the constants through it is a structure of pointing out at those fields. I'm surrounded literally by these incredible, beautiful wheat fields. So it's important that I reference that. So by the time we get to the end of it, we've been on a kind of a walk-around journey, and we've arrived at some different place than when we started out. And the pictures reference picture to picture to picture. You really can't pull them out of the sequence and isolate them particularly. They really depend upon each other before, during, and after.
It's an interesting thing to hear you talk about it and then to watch and see the story as you kind of go through all the images. And, and I love the fact that you just fell asleep and woke up to to some ideal place where it's literally waking up in a dream to take a picture.
Exactly. Very
Yeah.
surreal experience. I've got the seat cranked back in the rental car, and I'm out cold. I've arrived kind of bleary-eyed after shooting in the heat, and then I wake up and the breeze is blowing and I'm in the shade. It's magnificent.
Do you, as a photographer, do you like get in a zone? Like, is there like a place that's sort of like a dream state that's sort of where you find yourself to be productive? I know, like Michael Jordan would kind of get in that zone, and I remember there was one legendary game where he had the flu and he scored 60 points, and he was just because he was in
Sure.
that zone,
Right.
and I sometimes feel that I just sort of like everything else goes away, and I'm only focused on the center. Is that one of
It's
those?
it's rare, but in most of my what I think of as being my most successful series, there's definitely something going on where I'm so tuned in. There's a lot of trial and error in this process. There's me working to make it into a series and failing, or the light's not right, or the distance isn't right, or something isn't right. So there's a lot of attempt and then things not working out. So when something does sort of fit into place, it's very special feeling. And I think mainly what I'm trying to do is once I've understood that I'm now working on something fairly major in my body of work, not to screw it up. And so I'm being careful and I'm aware that I've gotten something in the camera that's pretty special. And as I continue, I don't want to blow that.
I don't remember what if you communicated this, but this was shot in one sitting, right? This is just one day, or did you come back
What
to this after?
no, 1 couple hours. That's
Yeah,
it. Right.
yeah.
So it's a very intense thing, obviously. I overshoot. I've said this before in Oakdale, I think I shot 4 12 exposure rolls. So that's 48 pictures with a final of 16. I have to overshoot it to make it work. So then there comes this agonizing process of editing and which ones I'm gonna print and so on.
It's a quaint thing to me that as a street photographer who just shoots so much that I'll get one out
Right,
of 1,000, and you've
right.
got 48 images, and
Yeah.
you have a
Well,
whole series
that's
out of it.
that's that characteristic of being on, being on it at this particular time, right?
Well, let's talk about your second image and your second, and this is from Martha's Vineyard in this stream that's there.
Yeah, and much more present. So there's been a lifetime between Oakdale and what happens in Stream. Stream is in the early spring, probably May. On Martha's Vineyard, spring doesn't come till later, so it's still cold and raw. And I'm kind of trying to make pictures. I'm there for maybe a couple of weeks. And as I walk down the beach that is known as Philbin Beach on the South Shore, I come across a stream that is a water that's running down the beach down into the ocean. This is a stream created by a pond that, after it rains, has overfilled, and the stream takes off the excess. And it's kind of a remarkable series of events. As days go on, it doesn't rain. The stream basically ends and dries up. It rains again, and then it all starts all over again. It's kind of a wonderful, miraculous kind of sequence of events. And what I find in this stream, sort of at the top edge of the beach, is this golden kind of pattern that forms as the water runs over the sand. And all I do is I stand with my shoes off and in the water, bare feet, and I point the camera straight down at what is going by me. And it's endlessly amazing and fascinating and exquisitely beautiful and gold. And it's just a remarkable kind of event. I'm completely entranced with this idea of the cycle of life that this stream has, where it dies out and then renews itself. And so the series, if we look at the body of work, does have a beginning and a middle and end, as most of them do. At the end, we get to the picture that actually shows us the stream going down into the ocean.
So you said at the start that each of these that we're going to show in the series, there's a critical the sequence is critical to the series, to the project. How do you how do you look at a body of work that is and create a sequence out of that? Like, I don't know what.
Yeah, pretty much as I see it, as I shoot it. Basically, most of them are very loyal to that idea of when I discover and when I start, and what how I start with it, and then as I progress through it, there's the body of work, and then we're beginning to draw it to a conclusion. I analogize it towards a musical piece, a chamber piece, or something that has a kind of introduction, and then a body of work, and then a conclusion.
In looking at the first two that we've talked about, the and I don't know if this relates to the third one as well, but the thing about the first two that is a surprise to me, and I know you relatively well, there's and we talked about this before, there's a zen to the process that you went through to capture these. You woke up out of the dream, literally, in the first one, and this one, you're just sitting with the water passing over your bare feet for hours on end. I mean, there's a meditation to that. The reason I bring it up is because you are not a person that I think of as being a meditative person
Right, sure.
in terms of in the way you present
Right.
normally.
That's right.
But these are very meditative.
Yeah, or a romantic or a subjective kind of character, And so the work very often gets misinterpreted because people will look at it as being factual or dry or less emotive, perhaps. And yet I'm giving it everything I've got in these things. And definitely that backstory of the cycle of this stream was major for me, right? And some of these series I've been doing, at work, I feel like they changed my life. They're really major to me personally.
Well, I mean, the other piece of this is not far from a home that you've had with your family for a long period of time,
My
right?
whole
So
my
there's
whole life. That's
yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
and there's a strong connection to the island. As you know, I photographed it just about everywhere I could figure, including a lot of aerial work as well.
Well, let's go to your third project in Shirley, Massachusetts, a little west of where you live. And I'm interested in this one because this is also shot in one sitting.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the story. So I'm out photographing, kind of common for me. It was maybe COVID time, but certainly late winter, weekday, late morning, nothing going on. And I'm just kind of poking around as I tend to do. And I stop at Shirley and I find this little lane that goes parallel to the railroad tracks. So as I'm shooting Shirley, I've got the railroad tracks behind me. And it's the most ordinary of kind of middle America scenes. It's very simple. And yet, what's going on is as it unfolds, there's a whole story and a whole kind of logic behind the initial pictures of this house that has a plaque embedded into a big rock that talks about they made this house for mama, for the mother, and how this family focused on this large project of making this home for the family. As I go along, so I photograph that, and as I go along from left to right, I'm now at the backyard of that house or the side yard of that house, and it's got wonderful sort of trellis and things from leftover from the summer, including some mounds of snow as it melts off at the end of the season. And I come down to this family-run oil delivery business, couple of oil trucks and some big tanks. And that clearly is some other family involved very heavily in a family business, with me projecting and making scenarios in my head about the dad, and the dad is now older, and the children have taken on the job of oil delivery. And it's not particularly prosperous looking, but it's not the end of the world either. And then there's the house itself, which is the final picture. And the final picture is a house that they have modified and renovated and added onto over the years to accommodate probably a growing family. And that's the end of the series. So it's the same, but different in that there's a clear sequence of pictures that are crucial, but it's also got a different kind of backstory to it, and reflects maybe more current kind of practice for me, is that I've expanded my definition of series to open things out to different kinds of possibilities.
I'm interested in the process you went through in just capturing these images. You haven't mentioned anything about interacting with the people who live there. You're just
No,
observing the things that you've seen.
right, that's right. No interaction at all, and then I don't think they knew I was there. if they were there, right?
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Well, so talk to me about this. So you've the three images or the three projects you've talked about are there's I don't small is not the word I want to use because I don't mean it in the way, but it's not the vast landscapes of the Palouse or the some of the places you have been which are big in nature. Why choose these smaller ones? Is that, or is it just coincidental?
No, you've seen large work of mine from Iceland and the Palouse and some of the evaporation ponds that I photographed, those aerials. So I'm still invested in that work, but there's different ways you can make pictures. And in my career, I'm fascinated by those inherent possibilities, putting myself into things that are unknown or new to me. And series is a way that I have of kind of coalescing the work, making sense out of the work, and having a kind of a structure to the work that's important to me. And so I can form a storyline or something with a little bit more substance or content through a series of pictures. I'm not very satisfied in this kind of work with just one picture. And I don't like to think of, I've had people interested in buying single pictures from me from series, and I'm not a fan of that. I would rather sell the whole series or exhibit the whole series. And the show that is coming up in the fall, next fall, we're going to exhibit 2 series and we'll do the full series.
So tell us a little bit more about that because that's a big deal. That's at the Danforth Museum.
In Framingham, that's right.
Yeah.
And I've known about this for probably a year, a little over a year. So we've been in meetings fairly often. And one of the initial ideas was that we needed to bring one of the newer curators, Rachel, into the work. So Jessica, who's the director of the museum, has been looking at my work for probably over 10 years. So she knows it pretty well, but Rachel didn't. So Rachel's been coming over here on her own, poor woman. And I subject her to 3 or 4 or 5 portfolios at a time. And off she goes and she comes back a few weeks later. So she's pretty much up to speed now. And we're getting down to we've got kind of a punch list. And we're getting down to pretty well deciding what it is. I told them initially that I wanted to be curated. I didn't want to control this thing because I tend to over control.
You?
You, me, right? And so to let them loose on the work and then try to figure out how to make it work from there has been wonderful. And they're a great team. And my assistant, Allie, has been an integral part of that process as well. We're doing well. I think I'm probably in production of these 93 prints or so that I need to make, probably starting in January.
So October of 2026 at the Danforth.
Exactly.
We'll see it up on the wall.
Keep an eye out for it. Right.
The last question, and I don't know if you've seen some of these shows or not, but I didn't preview it with you. Is there a photograph or a photographer that you think I should talk to you on this series of the 3, where people will choose their 3 images? Can you recommend it, and preferably somebody who I might be able to talk to if they're alive? Is there somebody you might recommend to me for that?
You know who it's going to be.
I hope it's nobody I haven't talked to.
Michael Hintlian.
Oh, hey, Michael Hindley. Okay.
Right. I don't know if you can get him. He's tough to get.
He's slippery. He's slippery. It's true.
But maybe with my recommendation, it might have some clout with him, but he'd be great. Talk about pictures. He just has millions. So how he decides to go down to 3 would be really wonderful to see, right? It would put him through some changes.
He is definitely on the list of the people that I would like to speak with.
Good, that's good.
Especially as a street guy who I admire. So
nobody's quicker, right?
Yeah.
His theory. You don't think about it. You just do it, right? He doesn't want thought.
Well,
he wants reaction.
Yeah, I mean, but that's very much, I feel like, what you have done in the 3 projects you've shown. That may be wrong. I may be assuming incorrectly, but there's that Zen piece in Hopesdale and the water that you were looking in the stream, as well as just, coming to this place in Shirley and just making it happen. I mean, I'm sure that there was thought. You were there for some period of time.
That's right. But there's reaction too, and that's intuition. And maybe, 50 years of experience, maybe that has a play in there too. That's all I have to say.
We're done with that.
Right.
Neal Rantoul, just a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for joining us on the Crit House, and we hope to talk to you again in the near future. Thank you all for watching the Crit House.